Good evening. Hi, this is Carol, Cocktails with Carol. We're having a heavy week of cocktails, but it is Christmas. So we're happy to have our sister Karen here. And then, of course, Hector, who made us the lovely Negroni this summer. And we promised you, our audience, to come back with the Manhattan Old Fashioned Hour. So that is what we're doing. Hector has been working very hard on a beef Wellington, which we're going to have this evening. Joey right now is working on cauliflower au gratin. And Caroline's made an apple pie. And Mary Katherine, of course, is producing and directing this video. So we're busy beavers today. I'm a little hot.
Yeah. It must be nice to have a nice cool cocktail to just chill out, relax for a long day. The food's ready, it's marinating, the juices in the fridge. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna make a cocktail, right? That's just what a rational, sane human being is gonna do. So we're just gonna start with the more savory of the two, the Manhattan. The myth of this drink, perhaps apocryphal. Sorry about that. Perhaps not true, but the myth is that this beverage was actually invented by the mother of Winston Churchill, who was a socialite in the city of New York. And as such, had a habit of going to many bars throughout the city and saying, I think I could do this better. So she came up with this concoction.
Really?
That is the apocryphal story. Who knows if it's true?
I like that story, though. What do you think, Karen?
That's a good story.
Yeah.
Basically, Mom liked Winston Churchill.
Ooh. Complicated figure. Interesting figure. Very much an enjoyer of drinks like the Manhattan.
Wow, how many jiggers of that are you going to
put I'm making 3 portions. So the idea is you're going to want a 2-to-1 ratio of your bourbon. Woodford Reserve is always a great choice. To that of your sweet vermouth. Now, this is the thing that many people get wrong when they start building their own bar set. They always cheap out on the vermouth because they don't really know what it is and like, oh, and all vermouth is good vermouth. That's very wrong. There is a brand of vermouth that is revolting. It's the cheapest vermouth you can buy at any liquor store. You never cheap out on your vermouth.
Isn't that like Martini and Rossi?
Martini and Rossi's not bad. That's okay.
Oh, okay.
But there's a brand below that one that you just never want to touch. You can get a liter for $7 and you think, that's a steal. It's disgusting. Don't even touch it.
Well, this is French.
This is very good. This is very good. So you're going to take your bourbon, 2-to-1 ratio with a sweet vermouth, a high quality vermouth. And usually you're going to find that, well, the sweet vermouth's going to stay for a long time. If it's a cheaper vermouth, generally you want to refrigerate after you open because you don't want it to spoil.
Well, I didn't have this in the refrigerator.
That's fine because we just opened it today. And you don't even need to shake it. You can shake it if you really want to, but really it's just a drink that you mix up together.
My grandfather really liked Manhattan.
And it's very simple. You just mix it up 2 parts to 1. Dole it out accordingly.
That's it?
That's it.
Karen, that's so simple.
But there are other little nice touches that we like to give. These are going to be a bit heavier because we're using the 1.5-ounce jigger today.
Well, there's definitely going to be enough for Mary Katherine to have a sip.
For sure. And you want to make it more or less even. Now here's the interesting part.
Well, let's show off the glasses.
Oh, of course. Don't let me block. Don't let me block.
The pretty crystal. And look at, is this that little ice cube?
That is the ice cube that fell out embarrassingly while you were making your introduction. Now, let's not forget the thing that adds character to the beverage. You're going to want 2 types of bitters. These are aromatic Angostura bitters. Just a couple of splashes in that one. A couple in that one. Generally 2. You can go 3 if you really like a little bit of character. You're going to mix 2 parts Angostura aromatic bitters to 1 part Angostura orange bitters.
Now I know that's orange, okay? But what is that
They're more herby than citrusy,
herby.
Really.
They're more herby.
So
Karen.
that's really the difference you're looking
Herbs. There's herb in there.
A little bit more ice in these because these are some pretty stiff drinks.
Whoa!
Things move around.
Don't forget about the cherries.
And then that's the last step.
Karen got you a little fork.
Thank you.
Now, why do you have this knife in the...
So that's for the old fashions themselves. They pair very well with a bit of orange. You want a little bit of orange citrus peel in those. So we'll get to that. But the Manhattan itself...
Man, Karen,
this is a very...
This is a drink.
This is a very dark vermouth you've got for us today. It's very heavy. Usually the Manhattans are not this heavy. But I think it's the combination of the Woodford Reserve, which itself is a very kind of dark bourbon, with a very, very dark.
I know, this is a very red.
Very, very red rosé.
I'm going to just
Very
smell.
dark.
I'm going to smell this.
Bit off the cuff, really. But anyways.
Oh, it smells good. Don't some people just drink vermouth on its own?
I suppose they do. I don't know those people. I do not socialize with those people. But if they do, I imagine they live in very expensive castles and they vacation in the Pyrenees or something. Maybe something like that. Anyways.
Okay, let's do a cheers, and we're going to have Karen. Ooh. I'm not going to be the bossy one today. I'm going to let Karen take the first sip. Hold your horses, Hector. Let's see what Karen has to say. She's being kind of quiet this week with the alcohol.
It's delicious.
Is it?
Check in our room. That is quite good.
Oh, yeah.
It reminds me of
You get the hit of bourbon, but it's smoothened up and the sweet vermouth. And, you know, it's just, it makes you want to think about talking about maintaining colonial possessions of India, doesn't it? You know, you drink this and you're like, you know what, the empire should say, you know, Britannia rules the waves and all that. It tastes imperial and makes me feel ashamed of myself, but it is what it is.
I don't think that's what this makes me think of when I'm tasting it. What does it make you think of tasting it, Karen?
Getting drunk.
Well, to each their own.
I think it's really delicious. Maybe we should have Mom, Mary Moran. Nope, she's like, nope. I'm running.
Some people have personalities for radio, and some people have personalities for camera and film. I suppose we just figured out which one is who.
Well, obviously. You know, my high school counselor, Mrs. Beard, who was a delightful woman, and when I was tired of high school, she always let me hide in her office. She always thought that I should do commercials.
Like, on TV?
On television commercials. Why not? Why can't I be like Flo from like...
The Progressive Flo? Do you know how much people hate that woman? The
you know
vitriol?
how much money she like, you know, has
That's a good
deposited
point.
into her bank account. But you know what, Hector? I'm going to be honest with you. There's really not much that I'm in want of, and that's a blessing, and it's wonderful to think about that during Christmas time. I'm surrounded by my family, who I love dearly. We have a lot of fun together, and what more can you need?
Cheers to that. Now, even though we're enjoying this very heavy, almost licorice syrupy beverage, if you want to describe it, I'm going to start preparing the next beverage.
Okay,
which is a bit more
pause.
of a... You can take your pause, you can take a sip. It's
okay.
It's a bit of just really bourbon with sugar. That's really the best way to describe it. But it's very good because you mix it with wonderful little small additions. So basically I have here 3 glasses with a sugar cube in each. And you're just going to want to drench each glass with 3 dashes or 4 dashes of your Angostura aromatic bitters. And the idea is you're adding this kind of like nose scent to the sugar cube in the drink, but it also makes it very easy to pummel and just muddle when you need to.
I love that word, muddle.
So now we can use the tool that I brought out. You get your paring knife, and really you just want to take the rind of the orange. You get 3 rinds. One goes in there.
May I tell a story about the Manhattan?
Go right ahead.
So my father, when we were small, we had to lose a tooth, and the tooth needed to come out of our mouth. He would say, Karen, stick your finger in the medicine. I'd stick my finger in the medicine and put it where the tooth is, and then he'd take his big hand and yank out that tooth.
Yes, I remember.
And then I'd put the tooth underneath my pillow and receive money from the tooth fairy.
How much did you used to get, Karen?
$1.
$1? Jeez, I think I got like a quarter.
You know, maybe inflation's bad because these days, you know, when I lost a tooth, I got like 10 cents, maybe 25, which I always thought was weird. But you know, that's maybe we lodge a complaint somewhere.
But it's
I
Dad's
remember.
medicine.
Maybe if I say it loudly enough, the money will just appear. I don't know. I have a feeling.
I just remember when me and Katherine lost a tooth once in Puerto Rico, and we were imbibing probably a lot of wine.
Yes, you do.
And then we were like, oh my God, we forgot the money under the pillow. Do you remember that name, Katherine? No, she's shaking her head. No.
That's okay. So, as you've seen, I took the sugar cube, I just drenched it in the Angostura, and then, even though we don't have a muddler, usually a muddler is just a wooden dowel that you use to squeeze things together, I took the back of a big spoon and just
Isn't that
crushed
part
it
of
together.
the Harry Potter story?
A muddler?
Yeah.
That's a muggle.
A muggle.
Oh,
A
it's
muggle.
close. Sounds the same, doesn't it?
Anyways.
Where's a muggle? We need a muggle. Harry.
Anyway.
Harry Potter.
We've added our luxurious ingredients, and now, like any good drink, we're just gonna add a bit of ice, nice handful, 3 cubes, really nothing crazy, and our classy quality Woodford Reserve. So I'm gonna be a bit more careful with the proportions this time, because you really wanna, you don't want to have too little bourbon, because then you just have a diabetes cup. It just tastes like sugar. And, to each their own. They might like it, but you really might not.
We don't
Or,
want
proportions are very important for the old fashioned. Really, if you want to be a bit of a purist here. So I'm going to try to be, it's 1.5. And, 2/3 of this is going to be that's like 2, right? Just about. Because the top is 1.5 ounces and the bottom is 75. You can kind of figure it out.
Mary Katherine, you're going to have to get the close-up because Beth got me these glasses. This one says blitzed. That one means turned. So apparently they were appropriate for me because they had words for being smashed. What's your favorite word for being drunk?
Plastered.
Plastered?
I like plastered.
Karen?
Zooted.
Wait, what was that, Joey?
Zooted.
Zooted?
He's like a Dr. Seuss character sometimes.
Oh, okay.
Now here's the
Just
part.
drunk.
If you don't know, you go to a nice bar and you ask for an old fashioned. They do all the rigmarole. They do this, they do that, and then do the thing that's unexpected. They take water and they pour a little bit of water in your drink, and you're like, "Why are you doing that? You're watering down my beverage, right?" But that's what you're supposed to do. It opens up the flavors, basically in a way that I'm not really familiar with.
I've never heard of that.
A real old fashioned has an ounce of water in it after you've added everything together. I think it's a way to.
That's what they say about scotch. That scotch neat isn't the way to drink scotch. It's over ice because because it breaks open the flavor.
Basically.
We want our flavor broken into, violated actually.
That's a word I don't consent to personally. And for a little bit of extra flair, just put a little bit of orange around the rim.
I just brought it up to be provocative.
Provocative.
Yeah.
Oof.
She's very productive.
Handicap case. That's the old fashioned. You can see the color's much more caramel, which is generally what you want.
Okay.
There's a lot of sugar on the
Do you
bottom,
have a
which
cherry in there?
generally you don't. This recipe I just pulled up doesn't have a
Oh
cherry.
no.
But obviously we're gonna add a cherry because
yeah, we want.
why
cherry.
wouldn't you? We're not just
You
gonna,
always want a cherry.
we're not just gonna add cherry. We'll go a step further. Can you move your basket?
I've never had.
It's over by you, babes.
Thank you.
I have never had an old fashioned that didn't have. Let's look at these. Can you see the difference here, Mary Katherine?
You know, usually the color
Karen, you
difference
wanna
isn't
bring
that
it up there?
extreme. I think it's the quality of the vermouth that you bought. The vermouth over there is very heavy. It's a very heavy vermouth. So let's even it out. A thing that I like to do sometimes is get a little bit of the juice. In
Oh,
the,
cherry juice? That's what I do when I make my
Yes.
old fashions.
I need
put
you
it
to bring
in.
them both up, but here. No, right in front.
Anyways.
Yeah, that's
Colors
fine.
Good.
Okay, we have to wait until.
So which one's which?
The darker one's the Manhattan, and the lighter one is the old fashioned. But that's just because the vermouth is particularly heavy. It's particularly a dark licoricey vermouth.
Why are you calling it licoricey?
Because it's kind of like silky, it's kind of like herby, you know, it's kind of thick. It's like a. There's a
Okay.
There's a specific type, like a Jägermeister. It's like licorice.
Okay, before we go further, pour a little of this in your jigger.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna taste just the vermouth on its own.
Okay.
Because
I just mean the heaviness of it.
Oh, okay.
Really.
Okay. I see what you mean.
Right?
That really has a very excellent flavor, though.
I'm sure there are beverages that you can have that are very heavy on the vermouth, and you can enjoy a drink that's mostly vermouth
Yeah, isn't that pleasant?
The art of cocktail making is really just about finding what you enjoy and what you like. But anyways, this is the old fashioned.
The old fashioned.
If you have
the
sugar on the bottom, you can kind of
old-fashioned
do that, and then it'll pour more of the
Okay.
sugar in when you take a sip. Cheers.
Jingle, jingle, jingle. I can hear old Kris Kringle.
It needs to be stirred up more. That's always the problem. You give it an extra stir, get all the sugar going. Because if not, you're just having the same drink. Here you go.
I'm stirring it up. Stirring it up. Up,
Gotta
up.
stir that shit.
Gotta stir it
No,
up.
truthfully, it probably would have benefited from another sugar cube. But
You know,
It
I
depends on
usually
what you
muddle
want.
in a couple sugar cubes.
probably 2 would have been the better choice here. But still, it's a bit more sugary. You know, you get sweeter tones versus the more savory, vermouthy tones with the Manhattan.
Yeah.
And, you know, there are many varieties. The Old Fashioned has hundreds of different varieties, depending on your personal preference. The Manhattan has hundreds of different varieties as well. It just, what do you prefer? Do you prefer the sweet notes? Do you prefer the savory? Do you prefer the vermouthy? Do you prefer the
Right.
aromatic bitter notes? It's just, you
I'm-
make it to your decision.
I'm finding that
I
this
like
makes
this one
this.
better.
You like that one better?
It's not as strong tasting.
The water tends to mild it out, which is generally the idea.
I'm trying to tell the difference between the two.
I'm more of a Manhattan guy myself.
You know, I always thought that I liked old fashions more, but I really like this Manhattan.
It's the quality of the vermouth. A very high quality vermouth will
Excuse-
it'll
Excuse my
exponentially.
finger. I'm gonna fish in for because this is the test. Because you know my grandfather, who was a Manhattan drinker, and he drank a lot of them. The cherries were what he would always pop into our mouths as kids. Made us all very. Maybe that's why we were drinkers.
Best not to dwell on it.
No. He lived to 96. God bless him. So.
You know, actually, they're similar.
The really the only difference is sugar in one versus vermouth in the other.
Right.
They're really the same, right? And the way I prepare them, they're almost identical. Just subtly a little bit of this or a little bit of that, right? They're not even cousins. They're sibling beverages, right?
I think this was a new bottle.
Well, most of the beverages haven't been drunk yet, though. I mean, so the liquor's on the table.
So the 3 of us.
So how do you feel about Drambuie?
Very funny. So when I was a young boy, when I was a young man, it was a Christmas many years ago that I try to forget. And these two, like the witches from like a Shakespeare play, are like
Hector are pretty.
double
We
trouble,
have a drink-
boil and bubble, drink
we
this
have a
thing,
drink for you.
and hate yourself in the morning. And I did. And, you know, the night was nice. It was, wow, look at this beverage. I'm with my aunts. I love them so much. It was a great time. And then they're like, hey, go to sleep without a Tums or a Pepsid or anything. And I that's the time that I learned that you can't trust anyone, even your own family members. You really can't. Because you think they have your back, but no one really does. And I spent a day in misery in my vacation when I worked so hard. In the regular,
But wait,
you know, in the work
Was
week.
Mary Catherine asking you to?
No,
make
that
you a
wasn't
piece of
then.
toast?
That wasn't then.
But the point is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Bread and water.
The point is to never trust anyone and develop a thick shell.
Can I tell you a funny story though about Grandma? And so Grandma and I would go down and participate in Bill's River to River run. So they would run from the Mississippi to the Missouri River, and it's like 70 miles. There are like so many odd legs, and they would have teams, and then they would have to run 4 times during the day. So Grandma and I would follow them on their odyssey across the 70 miles. And we'd picnic, and then you always ended up in Golconda in Illinois, where they had a country western bar that was their big night, you know, and they'd have a band and we'd have a good time. Well, the night before, we would always go out with Bill, and he'd want to carb up, like go to Paglia's Pizza in Carbondale and get some carbs. And this particular night, he's like, let's go to Tres Hombres, which is the Mexican restaurant in Carbondale, and get a drink because I'm kind of wound up. So we're like, okay. So my mom, I mean, she was like Clarence in It's a Wonderful Life. Like, oh, what am I going to drink? Am I going to have a flaming rum punch? But instead, she said, oh, I think I'll have a rusty nail. And the bartender, who was a college kid, said, well, ma'am, I don't know what that is. And so we explained to him that it was half Drambuie, half Scotch.
Oof.
So here's a college kid, right? And he took a glass that was much larger than this, put some ice in it, and filled it up half Drambuie, half Scotch. Well, the next morning, I had to wake Grandma up because we always went to get breakfast before we met up with the runners. And Grandma was like, oh, no. I don't feel like eating breakfast. I'm like, Grandma doesn't feel like eating breakfast? What's wrong with her? So we get on the road and we were heading to like the start of the race.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden Grandma's like, pull over. And I pulled over and she opened up the door and she went, bleh. She threw up. Poor thing. And so she's like, I'll just lay in the back seat. So in one of the first exchanges, my friend, who was an art professor in Carbondale, Kay Zivkovich, I have a lot of her lovely art here. Her husband always ran it, so she was one of the people that would like help the runners out at that particular passage. And so it was always exciting to see her. And, you know, she knew my mom really well. And she's like, Carol, where's your mom? And I'm like, oh, yeah, she's like sleeping it off on the back seat of the car because she did too much. That was the funniest thing. Poor thing.
Did she drink like 3 of them?
No, it was just one of them, but it was huge.
Oh.
She was such a little lady, and it was this huge drink that was half Scotch and half Drambuie.
That college student was like, I'm not digging out the Drambuie again. Just take it. It's over.
But, you know, I will tell you this about Grandma, because, you know, Grandma would always rally. And by the time we got to Golconda, she was ready to party. And it was so cute because at this country western bar, well, they actually had 2, but we always went to one of them in particular. All of the local people would come, and it was exciting because all of these outsiders were there, and men would ask Grandma to dance, and so Grandma would be out there, you know, like country western dancing with these strange men.
As you do.
And I'll never forget the time we actually got kicked out one time because one of Bill's running partners jumped up on top of the table and started dancing, and yes, he did end up naked. And Grandma's like, Carol, look.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, Joey, show the camera that. Joey made the cauliflower.
This isn't a cocktail. This is off topic.
I know, but
This
it's
is not
beautiful.
related to
Look at
beverages.
that.
Allergies.
We're gonna have a lovely dinner tonight. Oh my god, that looks beautiful.
I had no idea what I was doing. Just whatever the recipe said.
This is thematically incoherent.
It
I do not
awesome.
approve of these directorial changes so late in the script. I do not approve.
Get over it. But then what was interesting, because then we always had like 60 miles, I think, to drive back to Carbondale, something like that. And Grandma always packed such a huge picnic lunch that we would stop halfway and we would be in like a caravan of all the runners in cars going back. Being very careful, because, you know, we didn't want to get busted by the po-po, because everyone had a bit to drink. And Grandma'd always pop the trunk. Carol popped the trunk. And we'd get out all the sandwich makings, and, you know, we'd be in the middle of dark southern Illinois, only the starlight, and we'd be eating sandwiches. We had a really good time. I love those days. And my dad came with us one time, and he was just like, this is so boring. What are you talking about? It's fun. Yeah. And then he got to Golconda, and he's like, oh, all right, this is fun. Because it is fun to listen to a little country western music in southern Illinois. Yeah, good times.
Good times. Those are the beverages, those are the stories. That's the reason that you folks tune in.
Exactly.
A little bit of both. I don't Oh, Carol, should we put a nice bow on this thing and call
I
it a
think
night?
we need to put a bow on it.
Let's put a bow on
This has been a
Please.
lovely Manhattan old-fashioned hour.
it, as it always is.
Yes. Both beautifully made. I'm nursing 2 drinks. Oh, look at.
It's not a Moran Christmas unless you're really not remembering any of it. You know how it is. I know how it is, and I don't remember anything.
It's sometimes it's best to not remember anything. But we hope all of you are enjoying your families or friends or whomever sitting next to you. It could be a cat, or dog,
And your cocktail of choice.
and your cocktail
It doesn't
of
have to
choice.
be alcohol. It could be water. It could be soda.
And we just hope that
Like, you know anything about water or soda, Karen? Soda? You know anything about water or soda, Karen?
Well, anyways, we hope that we should just help get a little bit of our directions of cocktails into your daily lives and into your, seasonal festivities. So, Merry Christmas.
Merry
Have a Happy New
Christmas.
Year.
Happy New
Happy
Year.
holidays.
We'll be
And-
back again this week because Mary Catherine has a lovely drink that we have to try.
And I have a smoked Negroni that no one likes, but I do love.
And
So,
Karen still has
My
that
pear
pear
cocktail.
cocktail.
will
Well, you know, I
show.
just read that's like a Christmas cocktail, Karen.
Because
So
everyone
you gotta
likes
get on
a
it.
pear.
Well, I mean, I like an au pair, but I don't know if I like a pear. Jesus. Anyways, Merry Christmas, Happy
Merry
Holidays. Good day.
Christmas.
Have a great cheers. Cheers.